Hello, my name is Holthausen,
I'm Christine Garrett. And I'm Gladys Jimenez.
and today we're presenting on our research proposal in regards to the quality of American high school education. So the problem we have in American high school education at the moment is that there is a large inconsistency between quality between public and private high school. We will be looking and focusing on Texas primarily, but we will also suggest suggestions for the governmental level. So the problem with quality of education is that it's hard to determine. For example, you can look at an apple, cut it in half, and say, this is a good apple, this is a bad apple. With education, it's not that simple. There are 5 different parts of education, such as learning environment, outcomes, and the learner. We will be looking at outcomes and the learner in this particular example. How can we tell that education is inconsistent? Well, we can look at the economic indicators, such as rise in unemployment rate, higher dropout rates in college, and dissatisfaction among employers. There has already been quite some study done to this topic of high school education and how we can improve our education system. An example of this is Finding a Golden Mean Education Policy Centering Religious and Public Schools by Bruce Cooper, Wes McSeen, and Peter Murphy. In their study, they compared public and private schools and tried to find a middle ground that they took the best of both worlds. They argued that the best system would be a new education system that merges the public funding of public schools with the private funding of private schools. The next study we looked at is what private and public schools can learn from another. William Janus and Fred Rudler wrote a study. They tried to compare and contrast what public and private schools did to each other, and then they said what could each individual one improve. They came up with 4 topics: achievement gap, systemized collaboration, religion, and communication. The achievement gap is a theory which states that people of certain socioeconomic class, race, or gender are at a disadvantage when it comes to standardized testing and grades. They said that people of low socioeconomic class statistically do worse than people of high socioeconomic class. Women score higher than men, and people of non-Caucasian race score worse than Caucasians. Furthermore, they also wanted to have systemized collaboration. A lot of public schools try to work together and have a district, just like we have here in San Antonio, have a district that works together and tries to learn from each other. Private schools are a lot more, like the name says, private. They try to do things by themselves and they don't collaborate with other private schools. William Janus and Fred Rudler said that the private schools should try to collaborate more like the public schools do. Another argument that I don't necessarily agree with is religion. They argue that religious private schools do way better than non-religious private schools and public schools because of the religion aspect. They said that religion encourages students to work hard and be the best they can be. The last point they made is communication. They urge public and private schools to communicate with each other, not only in between each other, and learn from each other that way. Because without communication, that's very hard to improve. Next, Christine will be talking about the purpose of the study.
The purpose of the study is we're going to recognize concerns that students and teachers might have in the education system. Then we're going to take the majority of the concerns that we see, and we're going to take those and we're going to highlight the flaws out of them, and then we're going to suggest improvements that can be made to better the education system for private and public schools. By doing this, we're going to use the continuous improvement cycle, which is where we're going to identify the problems, and then we're going to make a plan to better those problems or to lessen the effects of them. Then we're going to execute this plan to work on improving the education system, and then we're going to review the results of this, and then based on the results you get in our review, we're going to identify more problems in that, and we're going to continue to improve the education system. The significance of the study is it aims to increase the quality of education. The new approach that we're using is we're going to be surveying students and teachers. It'll be practical and diverse. A specific research question, the hypothesis that we're going to be using is if we have a singular education system, we will see increases in critical thinking skills and see a positive change in regards to economic indicators. So basically, if you have a better education for private and public schools, you have better education, which means you have these kids going on to go to college and get their careers, and then you'll see an improvement in the economy, and then you'll probably see a decrease in crime. The hypothesis is we should merge private and public schools into a singular type of education so they work together, and then additional government funding would be necessary for this to support higher quality of education.
So the method that we're going to be using to conduct this survey, this research will be a survey, and we are going to be researching both students and teachers. Basically, we're going to survey 3 groups of students, which is people that have already graduated, people that are current college students, and that they have joined the workforce. These people that we're going to be surveying, teachers and students, will be anonymous, and it will basically just be a feedback of their high school experience and if it prepared them for the workforce. So as a researcher, we have certain roles and responsibilities, and some of the roles are that we have to have respect for the participants, and that we also have to make this research beneficial, and there has to be justice in it. So we will not be having any bias, and all the surveyors will be anonymous. And then the responsibilities will be to receive informed consent from the participants and to have already taken an assessment of risk into consideration. The impact of the research will be that we would have higher test scores from students, and that more people would be seeking higher education, which would then lower the crime rates and hopefully put the U.S. back in the competition within the global education system. And then the implications of the research would be that we would learn how the students want to learn, and then how they would want to be taught, and then we would have to teach students that way. And then the communities would have to be open-minded and willing to make an education reform. And lastly, it would be to just better the education overall.